We're studying James. The Gospel of Common Sense is what many people refer to it as. Most everyone considers it a simple book. And it is speaking on the surface, but it's actually, there's a lot of depth to the book of James also. It depends on how much time you want to put in, checking references and things of that nature. But there's a lot of meat to this little commentary, or this little letter that James wrote. Last week we left off, we were working on an analysis of the entire letter, chapter 1. It's a design of trials to make mature Christian character. This is one of the hardest things, I think, for us to understand is why do bad things happen to good people? It doesn't make sense to us. God is good. We belong to God. God loves us. Why does bad things happen? Same things can be said about little children. Little children are sinless. God is good. Why does bad things happen to little children? It's very confusing for most everyone, except for the learned. But for the rest, it's got to be deathly confusing. And James discusses that in a little detail in chapter 1. He touches on so many subjects, he doesn't really go as deep. But you can run the references. The references will take you even deeper. Paul speaks a lot about this matter in his writings, and you can launch off from James and see what Paul had to say in addition, and you can put together your own little commentary on the matter. I've got some at home I've done over the years, but it's always been helpful for me to do stuff like that. Because trials can make us mature, spiritually speaking, we can rejoice when we are in the midst of trials. Know that the trials are working on our behalf. Even though it's not enjoyable while we go through a trial, we know at the end of the trial there's going to be a pot of gold, and that is we're going to have grown spiritually, which of course is a very good thing. But you have to accumulate quite a bit of understanding to draw a conclusion like that. Also, we all need wisdom to recognize it, and God will supply wisdom. James points out the difference between knowledge and wisdom, and there's a big difference. Wisdom is only obtained through God, and it has to be asked for to receive. Our faith, however, must be stable. There's various levels of faith. And this, again, is something that's difficult to understand. A person can have what Jesus might call little faith and still be as mature as they could possibly be for that point in their life. Let's do it on a scale of 1 to 10. One person's got a faith, let's say 9. Another person's got a faith that is 2. Even though the person with a faith that is 2 seems to be so far behind the person with a faith that is 9, when the Lord looks at them, they're both equal in his eyes. The difference between the two people is the person with faith at the level of 9 has had more time, more opportunity to acquire faith. The person with the lower faith, number 2, he's had less time. Maybe he's only been a Christian for 2 or 3 years. Of course he's going to have less faith, but that doesn't make him less of a person. He's still, in God's eyes, he's still all he can be. And truly he is, because he hasn't had opportunity to be any more. So we have faith, and yet we still have trouble understanding some things. That's not a contradiction when you understand how faith is. Faith, therefore, has to be stable, even though it might be only a number 2. My faith can be stable. That is, I don't waffle. I don't have an enormous amount of faith, but I have enough faith to keep my feet on the ground. Just because something doesn't appear to be right, I know that that doesn't make it wrong. There may be something I don't understand. Years ago, this outline actually came from Brother Guyan Woods. And years ago, a few times when I read his commentaries, I thought, this isn't right, what he said, this isn't right. And then some time would go by, I'd learn a little bit more, and I'd say, oh, he was right. And then that happened again, second and third time, oh, he was right. What I learned to do was when I read his commentary and something didn't appear to be right, I would check it as something that may be wrong, but instead of saying it was wrong, I just gave it the benefit of the doubt, because I was pretty confident by that time, before I went very far, I was going to see that he was right again. Well, that's being stable, okay? Now, that was just having my faith in a man. I was being stable in my faith. I didn't understand why he would say this, but I've learned to experience not to jump the gun. Well, this is the way we do with the Lord. I don't know why this happened. It doesn't look right to me. Something seems upside down. It looks like the bad guys are winning. All kinds of thoughts go through our mind. However, I'm going to trust God. I'm going to stay put, and I'm going to wait to see how the outcome goes. That's being stable. We must not allow outward circumstances to change our status with God. God, he speaks about, James speaks about our doubts will throw our prayers off. Well, when our doubts cause us to move out of position, so to speak, yes, it does throw our prayers off. But when we have we don't understand. I mean, I pray to God, I ask for something. I know God has the ability to give it to me. Whether or not he will, I don't know. And do I understand him saying no? I don't. Well, these are doubts that I have in my mind, but these aren't the kind of things that are going to cause my prayer to be hindered. There's always going to be a question mark in our minds. There's always going to be a question mark. We don't have all faith. We don't have a perfect faith. We have the best faith we can have today, and that's what we've got. When our faith doesn't give us all the confidence we wish we had, we can just wait for the outcome, because we know it's going to work out right, because God's in control. So I don't understand what's happening or why it's happening. Nevertheless, I can be stable, and that's all we can do. We can't do no more than that. So when your feet get to itching a little bit, don't get all tore up over it. Just be calm and wait for the outcome. I'm just kind of amplifying what James is talking about. Patient endurance ultimately leads to the crown of life, and that's verse 12. Evil may not be blamed on God, but results from man's improper desires eventually leads to spiritual death. The Lord has been blamed for a lot of things. He does not introduce evil, and he doesn't introduce evil temptations or allurements. One of the big ones people use is in the case of adultery. If I've heard it once, I've heard it 100 times. It's the Lord's fault. He made me this way. I wouldn't have committed adultery if I hadn't been made this way. Therefore, it's God's fault. That's not going to fly. No one's going to be able to lay their sin at the divine doorstep. It's just not going to happen. There's only one person responsible for John Mayberry's sin, and that's me. I have no one else to blame. I wished I could sometimes, but I can't. It's mine. He provoked me. It's still my decision whether or not I'm going to punch him in the nose, and I'm supposed to not do it. It's my decision. When I sin, it's my fault. Somebody provoked me, yeah, he'll have to deal with the Lord on his part. But I'll have to deal with the Lord on my part because I sin too. But it's not God that does it. God made us with desires, absolutely, and there's reasons for all those desires. However, he did not mean for us to use those desires in a sinful manner. You can't blame him, therefore. God, however, is the source of all good. It is through the power of the world that we become spiritual children. But to be blessed by God's goodness, we must both listen to him and do what he says to do. This includes the practical precepts of Christianity, such as providing for the fatherless child and the destitute women. If we don't have compassion in our hearts, if we don't feel empathy for those who are hurting, we have a serious problem. That's one thing we have to make right. Remember, our objective is to be like the Christ. And he has a very compassionate heart. The cross, of course, is the ultimate offering, but his whole life was spent that way. He gave himself up as long as he lived. And we are to become like him. So we got to check our heart and make sure we have compassion for others. Chapter 2, he's going to talk about showing respect to persons, the fact that that's a sin. And it happens too many times. To fawn upon the rich and exhibit contempt for the poor is especially reprehensible. James doesn't deal with it, but I will. To show favoritism towards the poor, to exalt people who are considered to be minorities simply because they are minorities, that's just as wrong. There's no difference between the two. You can't inherently exalt anyone on their own faculties. There's got to be a reason for it. And there's too much of that nonsense that goes on in our country. People are given special privilege, special rights, because I don't know why. I do know why. It's because they are I can't say it. We're on the internet. And if I say it, I'll go to jail. Not really. It's all political nonsense. You know that. We all know it. But let's move on before I get in trouble. There's really more occasion to regard the poor than the rich. The poor are the heirs of God's blessings. The rich oppress us, deny, and evilly treat us. This was very common when James wrote. It's common today, too. People, a person isn't evil because they're rich. There are some evil people that happen to be rich. But rich being wealthy doesn't make a person evil. Being poor doesn't make a person good. It's the same thing. It's what people do with the externals they're given that makes them good or evil. According to the Lord, a person with $1 million might be considered rich, but a person with no money at all might also be considered rich. Anybody who trusts in riches is called rich by Jesus. When a person puts their hope and confidence in money, for example, regardless of how much money they got, they've given themselves over to mammon. And of course, ultimately, they're going to lose, regardless of how much they might accumulate. Their God is mammon, and their God's a deceiver. Mammon can't give you everything. It can give you some things, but it can't give you life. And that's what everybody is going to run out of sooner or later. And that's what happens to a lot of folks who trust in mammon. When the clock has ticked and their time is up, they want life, but there's nothing their money can do for them, and they're kind of stuck. They got nowhere to go. I'm the richest guy in the world, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to die. And their God can't bail them out. That's the problem with making mammon our God. It might be fun for a while. A person could get rich. Let's say by the time they're 50 years old, they might get rich, and they might enjoy a lot of stuff, might be able to travel a lot, and have their own personal jet, nice cars, big house, and all that stuff. Or they might wind up like somebody that's crippled by the time they're 50, and they don't get to enjoy stuff. Or even if they do get to enjoy it all, the clock's ticking, and sooner or later it's going to run out of time. And what will their mammon do for them at that time? And the answer is nothing. It's a deceiver. It can give you a little bit, but it can't give you what you want most, and that's time. It just can't do it. It can't give you life. And that's sad. The royal law requires us to treat all alike, void all respect of persons. With practice, we can learn to do that. To obtain mercy, we must be merciful. You know, the best I think we ever feel in our life is when we do good to someone else. Like birthdays or Christmas, we buy a child a gift. And oh man, they just go crazy over that gift. It's the most wonderful thing they ever had. And oh boy, we feel so good, feel so wonderful. Why? Because we gave something. Imagine if you had a grandchild, for example, that needed a kidney, and you had a kidney that would match that grandchild, and you would gladly give that child one of your kidneys. Imagine how good that would feel when you give them the extension of life, the joy that comes with it. Jesus said one time, it is more blessed to give than to receive. Used to, I didn't understand that. I've learned it through the years. I've learned it through practice, actually, that the greatest joys we ever experience in life is when we sacrifice for the sake of other people and without expecting anything in return. It's better than wonderful to do somebody good who needs good done to them. So if you want to be happy, make yourself a slave. because it truly does work out that way. It really does. Faith apart from works is dead. There's no faith. In order to bless us, faith must always be accompanied by obedience to God's command. Faith without works isn't faith. All works do is prove that there's faith. And if there isn't works, there's no faith. Okay? It's a lot of talk, but there's no faith. When you believe something, you do it. If I laid $1,000 on that table and covered it up, you couldn't see it. And I said, there's $1,000 underneath that handkerchief on that table. Anybody that wants it can come and get it. Whoever comes and gets it because they believe what I said. Most everybody just sat still. I ain't gonna waste my time walking up there. He ain't put nothing under that handkerchief. But the one that gets up and walks up here, they believe it. Why? Because faith does something. Faith wants the money. And faith walks. That's the way it is in life. If you got faith, you do what the Lord wants you to do. And if you don't do what the Lord wants you to do, it's because you lack faith. Or you have very little faith, one or the other. It's an indicator of no faith. Not great faith. Chapter 3, teachers, weighty responsibility. And it is. A teacher has to consider seriously what they're getting themselves into. It's indeed difficult for any of us to control our tongues, and they are possible of great evil. The tongue, a world of fire and iniquity. No telling how many sins are committed every day by the tongue. We talk when we should be listening, say things we ought not say, even casually sometimes without thinking. We commit a sin, just off the cuff we say something that we shouldn't have said. Why do we do that? I don't really know. Sometimes there's a reason, I suppose. Sometimes I don't think we're too bright. But our tongue is something that we've got to watch because it's capable of great evil. It's absurd to suppose that one is either wise or good who utters curses against other people. For what he has is wisdom, and it's from below, it's not from God. There is a heavenly wisdom. It exhibits itself in kindness towards others, not in ratchet jawing about them, and a life richly filled with good works. Chapter 4, conflicts arise because of improper desire. When desire gets out of control, that's when we get into trouble. Desire in and of itself isn't wrong. It's a natural phenomenon. People are made male and female. One excites the other. To be excited by a strange person is not abnormal. Sometimes people dress provocatively. Sometimes it happens in a church building. Some brethren have discussed that when they distribute the Lord's Supper, a woman may have on a dress that's so short that when they pass the Lord's Supper around, they see parts that they're not supposed to see. And it flusters the mind. And then they want to repent of their sin. Well, did they sin? I don't believe so. Getting physically excited over a sight like that is, I think, a normal response for a healthy male. The thing is, you got to shut it down. You got to take control of it. You got to get your mind off of it and change gears real quick. It's not the temptation that's the sin. A sin is to transgress the law, and that's to go a step farther. There could be a sin in the person who exhibits their body in front of men because they lead them into temptation. We have to be careful. People fuss about these things all the time. Look, if we ain't grown up enough or honest enough to admit that people can lure the opposite sex, then we have a serious problem. If I'm what I should be mindful of how I appear around other people. Not to be provocative, I'm not saying shorts are evil, but they might be. I've seen dresses sometimes that are very provocative. To me, more so than skimpy clothing. There's such a thing as erotic dress clothing because the imagination kicks into gear. And somebody says, well, it's not my fault people do that. No. We have to conduct ourselves in such a way that we do what we can not to be alluring to the opposite sex. Now, can you stop it altogether? No, you can't. But when I am trying to attract people of the opposite sex, hoping that they'll look at me and like what they see, which really isn't a danger anymore. But there was a time when it was, maybe, I think. I don't know. Anyway, for some people there was and is. When you're trying to provoke other people sexually, that's wrong. The intention's wrong. The heart's wrong. You're trying to provoke somebody to sin. That's never right. It's always wrong. And sometimes those things happen. It shouldn't be that way. We're supposed to try to be careful and present ourselves in a decent manner that won't cause people to think ungodly thoughts about us. And if we do that, that's good enough. It's good enough. But I don't think it's talked about near enough. And it should be. It's hard for me to do it. Hard to do that. Those thus possessed, though ever seeking, are never satisfied. Some do not ask God for their needs, others ask, but they ask for the wrong things. These are improper requests of God. Friendship with the world is enmity with God. We must ever be on guard lest our lower natures pull us down. It's easy to do. We have all these natural desires. It's inherent. It came with a package. And they're going to have urges as we live. wanting things that we really don't need. And the point is that the spirit person controls the natural person. Bring the natural person under control. When I want something I don't need, it's the inner person, the spirit, that is to take control of the fleshly person and change gears and not think about it. Temptations come, folks. That's just a part of life. There's always going to be temptation. But overcoming the temptation, that separates the winners from the losers. The most effective way to do it is to resist the devil, turn to God in humility and contrition. We should avoid all fault-finding and censorious judgments and not be guilty of attempting to usurp the powers and privileges of God himself. He reserves those rights for himself. God must be taken into our plans and purposes. We should live for today because we have no assurance that tomorrow will come. If God is willing, such and such will happen. If God is willing, there will be a tomorrow. There's no such thing as tomorrow. It doesn't exist. We live, I think, as though we expect it. It's like one of them big calendar Rolodexes. Tomorrow, there's tomorrow. Goes around again, whoop, there's Tuesday. You know, it's almost like it's already existing out there. And so there is no tomorrow. There is nothing beyond now. God made it possible. He gave us the moment. He'll give us whatever he gives us today. He'll give us tomorrow if he chooses to give us tomorrow. Sooner or later, he's going to stop giving us time, and that means all time stops. I don't know when it's going to be. Neither does anyone else. If we think about life in the true sense of the word, I think we're going to see that a whole lot of our thinking is really off center. I've used an example before of going to a vacation and renting a motel room for a week. While I'm in the motel room, what do I do in the way of work? I do absolutely zero, nada. If the doorknob doesn't work, I call maintenance. I ain't fixing that door. You come and fix that door, dude. I'm paying for this room. I don't want to invest any more in that motel room than I'm already investing, which I think is way too much. But that's my limit. I'm not going another nickel farther. If I went out and bought paint and painted the room and all this stuff went on for a week, I'm going to leave the room. I've invested $1,000 in the room. The room looks much better than it did when I arrived. However, it's not my room. I got to leave it. I go back home to my own house. Wouldn't it have been smarter for me to take that $1,000, invest it in my own house, instead of investing it in a motel that belongs to somebody? Of course it would. Everybody knows it. So why do we invest in this world instead of laying up treasures in heaven? One makes about as much sense as the other. There's nothing here that's mine. I've got deeds, I've got titles, I've got a bunch of paper. It's worth nothing. If the government wants it, they'll come and get it. They don't have to wait till I die. They'll come and get it now. But when I die, it's gone for sure. It doesn't go with me. If I've invested my life into my place, what have I got when I die? I've got nothing. We have all the facts. We know what's going to happen. The plan has all been laid out before us. So why do we do what we do? I don't understand myself. Because I do it anyway. But I try to control it better all the time. We have no assurance about anything. except that there's always going to be God. That's the only assurance we have. Chapter 5, let the rich take heed. That which they have obtained through fraud will witness against them in the judgment soon to come upon them. A lot of fraud in business. The faithful are to bear their sufferings patiently, assured that a day of comfort is coming. There's a better day coming. It might be today. It might be tomorrow. It might be another day. But it's a coming. And when it comes, you're going to be happy that you made the right decision. We are to avoid unnecessary oaths, not bind ourselves to something. Always keep in mind, there is no tomorrow without God. I can't promise I'll come over to your house tomorrow and get a cow up for you. I can't make that promise. By tomorrow, I could be dead. By tomorrow, I could break my leg. By tomorrow, an emergency may come up at home, and you wind up spending Monday in a hospital. And you ain't got time to go get up a cow. And then again, there may not be a Monday. But if I promise you I'll be there, I'm supposed to be there because I made a type of an oath through my promise. We should be careful how we present ourselves to other people. If the Lord's willing, I'll be there. If all's well, I'll be there. What's that old saying they used to have? Something about the bridge and the river don't rise. Well, I'm forgetting all them old sayings. And that's the end of that. We'll just stop there since we're